Hello, fellow Wolverines, and welcome back to Wolf TV SportsCenter. My name is Gabby Miller.
And I'm Emma B. Charters. In this week's episode, we'll break down football's nail-biter finish at Wrigley Field, hockey's split weekend at Penn State, men's basketball's down-to-the-wire win in Detroit, and comeback road victory at TCU. Women's basketball thrashing of Notre Dame, men's soccer's recent tournament run versus Washington and UCLA, Michigan's volleyball's dominant sweeps over OSU and MSU, and we'll wrap up with a full look ahead to Saturday's trip to Maryland.
This past Saturday, November 15th, your Wolverine football team traveled to Chicago to take on the Northwestern Wildcats at Wrigley Field. The first scoring play of the game came at the beginning of the second quarter, with Jordan Marshall punching it from the 1-yard line. Northwestern kicker Jack Olson would make 2 field goals later in the second, making the score 7-6 going into the half. The second half saw a bit more action, with Michigan's first drive ending in a 9-yard rushing touchdown from Bryce Underwood. Northwestern's following drive resulted in yet another field goal, followed by another 1-yard rushing touchdown from Jordan Marshall. Heading into the fourth, the score was 21-9. Northwestern's first touchdown of the game came 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, thanks to a tush-push from the 1-yard line. On our following drive, Bryce threw his first of 2 interceptions, with the return bringing the ball back to our 6-yard line. Running back Caleb Komalaf took advantage of the short field and scored on the very next play, putting Northwestern up 22-21 as their 2-point conversion attempt failed.
Michigan kicker Dominic Svada, who had already missed 2 field goals earlier in the game, became the hero when he nailed a 31-yarder as time expired to give Michigan a nail-biter win. Other than his 2 interceptions, Bryce had a pretty decent game, going 21 for 32 with 280 passing yards and a rushing touchdown. Running back Jordan Marshall and Bryson Kuzdal combined for 34 carries, 195 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Andrew Marsh also had a great game with 12 receptions, 189 yards, and an average of nearly 16 yards per play. The reason the game ended up being so close was a combination of the 2 missed field goals, as well as 5 turnovers from the offense, 3 of them being fumbles. We were very lucky to stumble out with a win, but these costly mistakes will need to be ironed out if we want a chance at upsetting the team down south in 2 weeks.
On November 11th, the men's basketball team traveled to Little Caesars Arena to take on Wake Forest University, where they barely escaped with the victory 85-84. The Wolverines started the first half off strong, going into halftime with a 13-point lead, assisted by double digits by juniors Elliot Cadeau and Ade Mara. Wake Forest dominated the second half, forcing a battle up until the very end, and the game was sent into overtime. The Wolverines scored twice at the beginning of the overtime, then not again until the 13-second mark. They held a 1-point lead with 6.6 seconds remaining, and only won when Wake Forest missed their potentially game-winning layup. On November 14th, the Wolverines flew to Fort Worth to face TCU, where their second-half rally was able to secure them a 67-63 victory. Michigan trailed through most of the first half, but went into halftime only back by 2. They slowly chipped away at the deficit throughout the second half, propelled by double-doubles from both Yazel Lenenborg, his first of the season, and Morez Johnson Jr. after 2 games on the road. The Wolverines return home to host the undefeated Middle Tennessee on November 19th at Chrysler Center.
On November 15th at the Shamrock Classic, Michigan's women basketball absolutely dominated number 18 Notre Dame 93-54 in Detroit, leading wire to wire. Olivia Olson paced the Wolverines with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Mila Holloway contributed 12 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals, while Silas Swords added 11 points and 9 rebounds. Michigan crushed Notre Dame on the glass, dominating second-chance opportunities and converted a lot of those to extra points. Defensively, they made life hard for Notre Dame star guard Hannah Hidalgo, limiting her to 12 points on just 4 for 21 shooting while forcing multiple turnovers. Overall, Michigan's offense looked fluid. The young core showed balance, and the defense proved it could clamp down in a big game against the best of the best.
On November 14th, Michigan and Penn State opened their series at Pegula Ice Arena. The Wolverines dominated the matchup, winning 7-1. Sophomore Will Horkoff netted his 12th goal of the season, earning him the nation's goal-scoring lead. Josh Earnesty was also able to score his third shorthanded goal, the most in the NCAA. In hopes of racking up more points, the Wolverines took on the Nittany Lions again on the 15th. Michigan faced their third loss, just 4-2, after being held off for 50 minutes without a goal. Junior Jaden Perron and Horkoff tallied late-game goals, which weren't enough to beat Penn State. Goaltender Ivan Kovic was pulled in the last minute when the finalizing goal was scored. Despite their loss, the Wolverines remain ranked second in the nation. Michigan returns home on November 21st to host Ohio State for a rivalry series at Yost Ice Arena.
This past week, the Michigan's men's soccer team made a strong run in the Big Ten tournament, but came up short in the final. On November 12th, they defeated Washington 2-0 in the semifinal, spearheaded by a strong showing for Mitar Mitrovic, who scored and assisted, and Nicholas Cassidy, who put one away in the first half. After the semifinal win, Michigan advanced confidently to the championship match, only to be overwhelmed by UCLA, losing 5-0. The Bruins' Sergei Solans-Ormo starred with a hat trick, and Michigan couldn't find its footing against a scorching UCLA attack. Despite the loss, Michigan's tournament performance still sets a solid foundation as it heads into the postseason.
Michigan volleyball had a great last week at home. On Friday, November 14th, the Wolverines faced off against OSU. Boo, sweeping them 25-17, 25-23, and 25-18. Allison Jacobs led with 14 kills on a .444 hitting percentage and adding 7 digs and 2 aces, winning set 2 with her 1,000th kill of her collegiate career. Ella Demetrician was close behind with 13 kills on a .333 hitting percentage for the night. Maddie Kukrin led the team defensively, tallying 13 digs. Then on Sunday, November 16th, the Wolverines took on MSU, sweeping them as well at 25-19, 25-19, and 25-18. Over the course of the night, 5 Wolverines tallied 5 or more kills, led by Jacobs and Smaraya Gordon with 8 each and Demetrician with 7. Leading in assists were Morgan Burke with 16 and Camille Edwards with 12 on the night. And Kukrin recorded 10 digs, including her 1,000th career dig, which resulted in a kill. Later this week, the Wolverines will travel to face off against Washington on Thursday, November 20th, then to Oregon on Saturday, November 22nd.
Saturday afternoon, football shifts back into gear as Michigan Wolverines travel to College Park to face the Maryland Terrapins at CQ Stadium this Saturday, November 22nd, with kickoff scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Big Ten Network. Michigan enters at 8-2 overall and 6-1 in the Big Ten, while Maryland comes in at 4-6 overall and just 1-6 in conference games. Michigan holds a dominant edge in the series, leading 11-1 all-time against the Terrapins, having won 8 straight against Maryland, including a perfect 5-0 record when visiting College Park. Maryland enters relying on its defense to set the tone. The Terps have been at their best when they create chaos, jumping passing lanes, forcing fumbles, and giving their offense short fields to work with. They've had trouble sustaining long drives, so their best chance comes from turning the game into a swing play battle where one turnover or busted coverage can flip the feel of things, which, after last week's performance, is quite worrying. Quarterback Malik Washington remains their most reliable spark on offense, but the run game hasn't consistently backed him up, putting a lot of pressure on Maryland to hit the right moments rather than string together lengthy possessions.
For Michigan, this game is about reestablishing rhythm and staying disciplined. The Wolverines' defense has traveled well all season, especially up front where they've shut down most opponents' attempts to control tempo. On offense, Jordan Marshall continues to emerge as the engine of the unit, carrying the workload and breaking games open with steady, physical running. Bryce Underwood's poise has helped keep things balanced, and his connection with Andrew Marsh and Donovan McCulley should be key again. If Michigan protects the ball, unlike last week, wins first downs, and keeps Maryland from stealing momentum, they'll put themselves in position to handle business and head into the game strong. Okay, so I feel like we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Last weekend wasn't the best performance by Michigan football.
Not at all. I think, it was a heart attack, years off my life.
Yeah.
Nothing about that game felt good. The interceptions were like swords to the throat every single time. It was like again and again, and the missed field goals. It just doesn't make me feel confident going into Maryland, let alone the big game.
I think we thought going into this season that maybe it would be different against Ohio State this year with the promising talent coming in. However, we're struggling to find all of those connections on the team still. Not all this chemistry is found yet. I do like the connections we're seeing with Underwood to Marsh, and I like that we're expanding and allowing Bryce to throw more. I hate that it kind of took Justice Haynes getting injured to explore the throw game, but I'm glad we're expanding off of running plays. I do think Jordan Marshall's been proving really strong so far, and I've loved his performance so far. And I am excited to see how he'll perform this weekend and against Ohio State, obviously. But I do think we are going to need to look for more receivers and more passing routes because clearly Marsh has been performing so strong, and Ohio State is going to put such a huge target on him.
Yeah. I hope Maryland, we can use it to iron out our issues, focus on our faults, and also try to build our momentum back before the big game, because I can't imagine going in a win like that, a bad, painful win, is going to put us in any good position to be competitive.
For sure, and special teams obviously have been a huge part of the team as well. And Zavada, I hope he got a little bit more of his momentum back in the end by making that crucial field goal, winning the game, because we saw obviously from similar yardage 2 misses. So I hope he kind of has his momentum back going into this weekend. That'll be all for this week's episode of Wolf TV Sports Center. I'm Gabby Miller.
And I'm Emma B. Charters.
Who's got it better than us?
Nobody.